Let's talk about England's schools because a new report for 2026 paints a really stark picture of a system that is, well, under some serious pressure. So today we're going to dig into the data and really understand the story behind the empty desks, the exam pressures, and the budgets that just keep getting tighter.
Here's how we're going to break it all down. First up, we'll look at what we're calling the empty desk problem. Then we'll dive into the pressure to perform for those students who are in school. After that, we'll zoom out to see how the whole system is under strain. And we'll finish up by looking at the search for solutions.
So where do we even start? Well, arguably the most fundamental challenge for schools right now isn't about what kids are learning, it's about who's actually there to learn it. So let's talk about attendance. Now, an attendance rate over 93%. That might sound pretty good on the surface, right? But let's flip that around. A 6.61% absence rate means on any given day, almost 7 out of every 100 students just aren't there. When you scale that up across the entire country, you're talking about millions of empty desks and a massive amount of lost learning time. Okay, this is where the story starts to get really telling. Just look at how that absence rate jumps, almost doubles when kids go from primary to secondary school. But the number that really stands out, the truly alarming one, is for special schools. We're talking almost 13%. This isn't just a statistic, it's a huge red flag that we might be failing some of our most vulnerable kids. And if you thought that last number was concerning, this one is, well, it's genuinely shocking. A recent survey found that 1 in every 6 autistic students hasn't even been to school at all since the year started. Just let that sink in for a moment. This isn't just about playing hooky. It points to a deeper crisis of anxiety, exclusion, and a system that isn't providing the right support. And this quote right here reveals the human cost of all this. Can you imagine being a parent, fighting to get your child the help they need, and on top of all that, feeling like you're being blamed by the very government that's supposed to be helping? It's just a heartbreaking situation for so many families. Now, here's another huge piece of the puzzle, and this one is all about unauthorized absences. For a lot of families, it's a pretty straightforward, if difficult, bit of math. I mean, when you can save over 500 quid on a family holiday just by taking it a week before the school holidays officially start, that creates a really powerful, and for some, irresistible incentive. Okay, so what about the students who are making it into the classroom? With all this going on, how are they actually doing? Let's switch gears and look at the latest exam results for 16-year-olds. The academic picture is, well, it's a bit of a mixed bag. The main overall score, that's the attainment 8, is still a little bit behind where we were before the pandemic. But there is a silver lining here. We're seeing more students get strong passes in those core subjects, English and maths.
And here's a really interesting twist in the data. For years, it's been a given that girls do better than boys in exams. But look at this. That gap is closing, and it's closing fast. In just a handful of years, the performance gap has been cut in half. It really makes you wonder what's going on there.
This chart, this really lays bare a persistent and frankly stark inequality in our education system. Students with special educational needs and disabilities, or SEND, are being left behind. You can see it right there. A nearly 15 percentage point gap in their performance in English and maths compared to their peers. And here's the most concerning part. This gap isn't just big, it's actually getting bigger. You can see the trend right here. It's been growing steadily for the past few years. This isn't some statistical blip. It's a clear signal that the system is finding it harder and harder to give these students the support they so desperately need. So we've seen the challenges for students, but what about the system itself? That widening SEND gap is really a symptom of a much bigger issue. So let's zoom out a bit and look at the cracks that are starting to show in the very foundations of the education system. So, on the surface, the money situation for schools actually seems to be getting a little better. For the first time in a while, most academy trusts are reporting a surplus, which is good news, right? But this might just be the calm before the storm. Yeah, financial analysts are basically screaming, don't pop the champagne just yet. They're warning that those surpluses are about to vanish. Why? Well, you've got this perfect storm of rising costs, staff salaries, crumbling buildings, and that ever-growing bill for SEND support. The forecast for the next couple of years is, in their words, bleak. And if financial strain wasn't enough, there's a new kind of pressure. Ofsted, the school's inspectorate, has changed how it grades schools. They now use what's called a secure fit model.
Basically, to get a certain grade, a school has to tick every single box on the checklist. It's an all-or-nothing game. Very different from the old best fit system.
And this is where you really see the human cost. Ofsted says the new system is fairer, but the school leaders who are actually going through it, they're using words like brutal. They feel like they're drowning in paperwork under a system that has zero room for error. It's two completely different views of the same reality, and it's putting enormous pressure on head teachers.
This next number is basically a ticking time bomb. The cost of supporting students with special needs has just exploded. And now, 8 out of 10 local councils are saying they could literally go bankrupt if they're forced to cover these massive deficits. This isn't just a budget line item, it's a potential crisis. What happens when that safety net for our most vulnerable students just disappears?
Okay, so after all of that, it's easy to feel a bit pessimistic. But in the middle of all these challenges, there is some hope. People are fighting back with new ideas and new programs. So let's end by taking a look at the search for solutions. We are seeing real, concrete action on the ground. The Free Breakfast Club program is getting a huge expansion, which is fantastic. There are new pilot programs for SEND support that are actually showing some promising results. And there's a big new push to fix the foster care system, which is long overdue.
And it's not just about those big programs either. There's a whole host of smaller but still really important changes in the works. Things like giving reading for pleasure a bigger role in the curriculum, getting Ofsted to actually ask about the well-being of school leaders, and even new guidance on screen time for the littlest kids. These are all steps in the right direction.
So where does all this leave us? We've got a system that's on the brink, grappling with attendance, huge achievement gaps, and a looming financial disaster. But at the same time, we have this wave of new ideas and initiatives trying to turn the tide. The big question is, will it be enough? The next chapter for England's schools is still being written, and it really feels like we're at a critical turning point.